Welcome to the island, where our special guest has found themselves stranded following yet another accident with 3 to 4 other fellow survivors. Is this the Bermuda Triangle? Is it a waypoint that all through flows and currents lead to? We just don't know. What we do know is it's an island of plentiful supplies of naturally sourced fruit and clean drinkable water, and there are plenty of resources to make shelter and other things to like. Surviving here should be a doddle, but more importantly, a backpack came with our esteemed guests, and within it are 3 very special board games to keep everyone entertained. So without further ado, let's get to know our survival. Hi Darryl, how are you?
Hello, people. I'm okay.
Darryl Buckby of Everybody Dies.
Yes, of that notable fame or notoriety, who knows? It could be both. It's both.
Yeah.
Good. How are you, Steve?
I'm
not going to say your second name because we've had this before, and I spent about half an hour trying to pronounce it, and you were like, not even close.
It's all right. I'm kind of used to it.
But give it.
I feel like I should almost do a false one. Ferbrace.
Oh, it's obviously Ferbrace. Everyone knows that. I don't know why anyone doesn't know that. You're like, oh.
Hey, if everyone else is going to pronounce it wrong, I want to get in on it too. So there we go. But yeah, we find ourselves on this glorious island with wonderful weather. It's just as well because in the UK right now, I know for a fact it is miserable. So yeah, a lovely island here. We've got a real nice setup here for you and your fellow survivors. So really, I want to start things off just by asking you how you really got into modern board gaming. Really, the kind of stuff we've really got now.
It's an interesting one because I would say I always enjoyed the basics, but coming from a smaller family, there was never an option to play like a big game of Monopoly or a big game of anything really. To be fair, it was always just like a couple of people, and I don't really having no like brothers or sisters or anything like that. There was no option to kind of have huge game nights. I think for me it was. Originally, I think I started playing Warhammer a long time ago. They used to do like a kind of magazine subscription service with the Lord of the Rings, I think it was. Yeah, it was. And it was like every week or every month, I think it was, or 2 weeks, they would send out some little miniatures and you could kind of build an army and get into it. So that was kind of probably my first introduction into anything.
White Dwarf, I think, wasn't it?
Oh no, this was
different.
Like a separate thing. Yeah, it was like when you like kind of the first issue is always £1 and then the rest are like a subscription only type thing.
Yeah.
It was one of those, and at the time it was pretty decent because you ended up getting quite a nice set of stuff. And I was quite lucky because where we lived there was a small little kind of independent wargaming shop up the road which sold Warhammer stuff. Sadly, it's no longer around. I don't even know if it got absorbed into something else, but I managed to go in there and play like a couple of games there, and then I eventually went round to the one. Do you remember the one that used to be down by the post office in Bournemouth? Well, the post office
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It was just a standard Games Workshop.
It was. So they had a couple of like open day type things where you could go down and learn to paint a miniature or learn to play the game. And I think that was probably my first actual jump into anything outside of Monopoly or Ludo or the Game of Life or any of those kind of Hasbro standard games that everyone kind of grows up on as a child. As when I sort of started getting into proper board gaming, I would say probably you. I think you are you would probably be the dealer, I would say, that got me onto it, because up until that point I think I only sort of played a couple of things like, say, Exploding Kittens, which I think everyone had. What's the game with you that we none of us play anymore?
I think Cards Against Humanity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, like Cards Against Humanity. It was all those kind of standard, stereotypical party games you would play, and those were the first 2. Again, I kind of got into X-Wing with Ian, so that was more of a miniatures-based thing. But I think initially it was probably yourself that I can't remember how it happened. I can't remember. I think maybe we were all talking about like X-Wing or miniature gaming, and you were like, "Oh, I do board gaming and stuff like that." And we ended up coming around to a couple of your world-renowned game nights.
They never seem to. Well, of course they're not happening right now, but you know.
No. But back in the day when they were flowing thick and fast, they were great. I mean, you opened my eyes to some really interesting. Again, still some party games, still some more advanced games, and I think that's where my love, if you will, kind of went on. Because I always assumed the stuff like Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, all that kind of stuff was a bit above me, like in sort of terms of sort of knowledge and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I met you that you kind of explained that they're actually just kind of the stepping stone into further rules, which then kind of progress into, say, the bit more word-heavy text, if you will, with like stuff like that. And again, I think it's one of those things that I sort of appreciate, because if it wasn't probably for you, I think I still would have only probably been playing miniature games, to be honest with you. I mean, there's so much more out there.
Something I will say is it is interesting, because although I know I have a lot of friends that always say, "Oh, I really only got into modern board gaming when we started coming along to your game nights and stuff like that," still most of them have usually played something like Pandemic beforehand or something like that. Like, it is kind of like a view as to how modern board gaming is starting to get more popular, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I would say the only thing that I found, especially within the last sort of 3 years, I guess, the Ravensburger stuff, I would probably have ignored initially, but having played a hell of a lot of those, they seem to be a really nice kind of tipping point into modern gaming, especially with like some of the more expanded rules they have in certain ones. So like Horrified, for instance, El Dorado. The Jaws game's really good. I still have yet to play the Back to the Future one, but I think that's going to be a little bit more.
Is that one big potato though?
No,
it's
another Ravensburger one. It's like a dice one.
Oh, okay, right.
Like something out of dice or something like that. I can't. I've got it, but I haven't played it yet. But yeah, those kind of games, I think, especially for me, they've been a really good entry point in order to teach other people. And I found that those are, maybe they were around back when I was younger, maybe it was your standard stuff, but I just missed it, because a lot of the times this kind of stuff seems to be kind of in a niche market, and you find that you can't actually get it in standard. I mean, I can't even think where I suppose Toys R Us back in the day, I would have got board games from there. And it was sort of, again, there was a very few select things you'd see and you go, oh, it looks a bit too confident, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be in the slightly older section and you'd be like, don't know if I can be bothered to learn this kind of thing, or would anyone play it with me? But I think, yeah, it's nice to kind of know now, it seems there's definitely a hell of a lot more options for entry-level gaming.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things where it's certainly starting to become a little bit more accessible now. Like, by and large, most hobbyist board games still are quite hard to come by, as in you don't really see them on the high street, but there is that trickle through of like your Tickets to Rides, your Catans and stuff like that you know, they're starting to stock in shops like Waterstones and Smiths, you know.
Yeah, see, one of the things I found really interesting is Waterstones seem to have almost like an Aladdin's cave of more obscure games. There's definitely a few more in there that I wouldn't have noticed prior, like Boss Monster, Consulting Detective, the Sherlock Holmes ones. So there's a lot more, although they have, say, maybe a small kind of 2-stack shelving unit of board games. Sometimes they have 3. The choice they've got is so varied and so different that it's not just standard kind of. Again, they have got Ticket to Ride, they've probably got Carcassonne, and I'm pretty sure they've got Catan, but they've also got your other alternatives, like I said, like Boss Monster, Obama Llama, so like potato. Not potato. Thingy games.
Big potato games. Generally, you tend to find them around quite a lot. I think Big Potato and Ravensburger seem to be the two that are starting to filter in their more advanced board games, I suppose, into the mainstream now. Yeah, I think it helps to have like the movie licenses and stuff behind them as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, I probably wouldn't have picked up a board game about sharks. Oh, that's a lie. I would have picked up a board game about sharks, but if it wasn't for the fact that it was so heavily in Jaws, like, I mean, really, really Jaws, and I think that's the thing that kind of got me on it. Like and I hear good things about the Disney Villains board game. Like it's got quite a lot of expansions. There's a Marvel one, so I hear that's quite a good one. And I imagine again it probably. I don't know if it copies any other of their versions of games, but I imagine again about the Disney licensing and branding and the knowledge of people knowing who these characters are. Maybe it wouldn't have done us so well.
Yeah.
But I guess they're proving very formidable, which is cool.
Okay. Let's not waste any more time though. We're here to reveal your 3 games. So, your first choice of board game that you are taking to this island that you've stashed away in the backpack just in case you ended up in this very situation, I'm sure. What is it, Darryl?
I will probably say that I would have picked Cards Against Humanity about 4 or 5 years ago. However, I am going with Champions of the Wild.
Good choice.
Because again, it's similar in concept of it's a very much a party game, but I imagine it'd be a hell of a lot harder on a desert island because obviously you're not allowed to Google. But it'd be fun just to get discussions going. You could drag that game out like super long. Do you know what I mean? You could do one scenario and then have everyone thinking the entire day why a dolphin with specialized cooking gloves can make pancakes. And you just be like, well, and then the whole day you're gathering your firewood, you're potentially not having cannibalism, but you're doing something, thinking about it all the way along, going, do you know what, actually, if I did train a dolphin to have special flippers that controlled pancake flipping devices, it could work.
Yeah. It's certainly, I will say, it's certainly a good choice. Like, it's a good game to play with strangers. So if you've got 3 or 4 different survivors that you don't know that happen to be on this island with you, that's a really good icebreaker game.
Oh yeah, 100%. And also it gives you that level of where they're at mentality. And then you probably, you can probably then judge who's probably the likeliest to turn as a cannibal. Quite quickly.
So you're also using these board games you've chosen as tools?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what I was going to say is, Champions of the Wild does need a lot of players, though. So, or it's better with the more players you have.
Yeah.
So you may need to have kind of maybe a Wilson kind of situation or something, just to bolster the numbers a bit more.
Yeah, I'm imagining everyone's made some sort of panic creature that they are talking to. I know I'd get really bored after about 2 days, I think, with the same 4 people. So I imagine they would be the same. And we're strangers, right? No one knows why we're all Yeah, admittedly, I'm awful around new people, so...
As an intro to the series, I wanted people to kind of think about, is this board game going to be hard to teach to a bunch of people that have never played a board game before and stuff like that. I wanted to try and not necessarily say you can't pick these games because of this, but I wanted as a form of conversation to be there of, hey, I want to take this game because it's really easy to teach, and if I'm with 3 or 4 strangers, then
they're playing games regardless of whether they want free will or not.
Yeah, they've got all the time in the world to learn these things. So
exactly, we might be there for months, who knows, and eventually we could finally learn how to play Star Wars Rebellion. It could be one of those things. They will appreciate it by the end of the 9 months we're together.
Yeah, I will say the other day I mentioned to you that I bought Spirit Island, and which is quite appropriate for this little clip here. But man, that is going to be a hard one to teach. I can say right now. So yeah, that's one which I may not think about taking if I was in this situation, but there we go. Right, anyway, that's your first game then, and I thought in between games I'd spark up a little bit of a conversation here because I know you have an interesting little collection that I want to talk about. So
Addiction is the word.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your card collection?
So I would say possibly... Geez, actually, when I work about it, it's only been since last September. So I didn't ask for a lot for my birthday. I asked for a packet of cards. So this all came originally from watching the... so during lockdown 1, I guess, lockdown 1,
Yeah.
1.0, there was a lot of people making kind of online content. And one of the people that kept popping up a lot on Facebook was a guy called Chris Ramsey, which, interestingly enough, I spoke to someone we work with, Sean, and he knows about him as well. So I think it pops up on a hell of a lot of people's feeds. So he primarily, at that point, I was seeing him as a puzzle solver, and he was coming across loads of like really interesting puzzles I've never seen. So we're not talking like you kind of pieces you put down jigsaw puzzles. These were like really intricate designs that you'd have to like kind of shake in a certain way or have it at an angle to kind of, they were really interesting. Okay. Anyway, it turns out he was doing an unveiling of these cards, these playing cards, by a company called Theory 11, who make quite a lot of really nice playing cards, but they're usually themed, so you've got a couple of people they tie in with. And one of the groups, one of the people, should I say, that they were tying in with was Neil Patrick Harris. And I love Neil Patrick Harris, I always have. Something about him is really, really interesting. And I always forget that he technically was, for quite a while, like a sort of amateur type magician type, I guess you could say. I think he even was on the board of the Magic Circle, oddly, for quite a while, which it makes no sense, because I don't think he actually practiced, but I think he's one of these people that sort of describes himself as like a historian of magic, so he'll collect stuff and enjoy it, but not actually perform, which, is kind of cool. Anyway, the thing what really drew me to these cards was the fact that they were a puzzle deck. So not only were they a really nice set of playing cards, kind of in a sort of almost Great Gatsby looking kind of style, they also had this kind of hidden link to them, which would take you to a website, and you'd have to solve some riddles and different things like that, all based around kind of Neil Patrick Harris. So I asked for them, and having only ever probably played with like normal playing cards, I guess you could say, like your standard kind of just generic cards, I never realised there was a level of kind of quality to cards. It's similar to, I guess you could say, like trading card playing cards. Like there's a very different kind of feel to, say, Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. There's quite a different sort of texture to the card. It feels like there's a thicker stock on it. It's all that kind of stuff. From there, I would say I dipped gingerly into a couple of other cards, which then started what could only be described as a serious problem, and I need help. At the time, I was speaking to someone we used to work with, and he sort of started pointing me in the direction of certain other cards, and from there it's just kind of barreled out of control. So I have got a couple to show, and I would say these are probably my favourites, but it does show you there's a broad range of stuff out there. I would probably say a good point is to stick with something you know. So like I started buying like individual stuff and random things just because I like the look of them, but they always sort of they're nice, but it's kind of more going about the people you like. So for instance, magicians, I guess, in a way. And ironically, I found out that Chris Ramsey actually is also a magician. He isn't just a kind of a puzzle solver. He was just sort of more doing that during the kind of lockdown period, because it's very much difficult for them to be able to do magic other than sort of showing a few tricks and stuff like that online. But again, it's only so many things you can do, and you miss out on that kind of personal touch of kind of being in the room and wowing about 10 people, and it's like, wow, how did you do that? Whereas online it's kind of like, well, you can freeze that frame and you can see that he moved his hand in a certain way, and it's like, well, it's not as good. So I managed to get a set of his third set of cards. So I love these because they are there's something, I don't know, there's something really nice about the backs to them. They're not kind of just your standard kind of deck. They've got really nice kind of like gold features in here. There's his logo on the top. So a lot of things you'll be finding on a lot of these cards is the deck boxes themselves are actually really, really nice. So like, I don't know if you can sort of see in there, there's kind of all of his logos inside. So you don't really get this on a standard set of cards. And the other thing is as well, they've got this really nice sort of kind of leaf pattern on them with like a kind of gold symbol on the side.
Seems topical.
Very topical, and this is why I started with these ones. But again, they've kind of got this kind of lovely kind of texture to them. There's some gold, like kind of foiling at the top, and again, it's just generally they're really. I would say these are very happy cards for me personally because they do remind me of like kind of tropical places. I know it sounds really stupid, but it's nice to kind of look at cards that kind of remind you of things. And again, like the art looks really nice on them. So another thing I found that was really interesting about certain cards is they've started kind of, depending on who it is, they would change the court cards. So I don't know if you can kind of see that very well, but they've kind of put leaves in with the queen and stuff. And a lot of these magicians, which I found was really interesting, is a lot of them will put people they know in the cards. I don't think there's any in this one as such, but I know David Blaine uses a lot of people, so he'll put David Blaine in there, he'll put Daniel Madison in there, he'll put, I think it's someone like his mother or something in there, and I think his daughter's been in a few of them. So it's nice to see that there's kind of a level of art that goes into them, and it's not just your standard kind of deck of cards. I'm not saying that they're all like that. There is a lot that are just standard in one way or another, but the backs are different.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a shame. But this is the thing, you've got to kind of be getting what you want. So have a look at, a lot of people will review decks and show stuff online, which is quite nice. So you can kind of have a good feel for them. So yes, one of the people that he kind of also put me in the direction of was someone called Daniel Madison. The only way I could describe him is probably like a cult leader, I guess. You would definitely probably follow this man into something dodgy and still be happy that you're doing it.
Okay.
The guy is, do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where the guy is so many different levels of character that whenever he does like stuff, he's always wearing only one boot. And it's just weird things like that, little subtle things you kind of go, what's this about? Like, what is going on? But I love it. So he released a kind of set of cards called the Madison Advocates. So again, these are just kind of like standard playing cards for him, if you will. But again, there's a lot of hidden kind of meaning in these things. So his kind of branding is the 9 of clubs, and he puts a lot of this stuff like hiding in the sort of cases and stuff like that. Again, these are just sort of a standard set of cards with the double backs on them, with the Madison logo. Weirdly enough, that's called Charlie. It's a bird. I don't know, but yeah, he is one of those people that puts like the different people he knows in the court cards and stuff like that. So again, one of these is Chris Ramsey. One of them is another magician, and there's a lady as well that used to be really familiar. But again, I don't know if you can see it there. The guy's got a tattooed face.
You can't really see it too well, but you can see there's definitely something on there. It's still a bit blurred, but yeah, you can see it.
So it's one of those things where again the cards are very much kind of designed in a certain way. One of the nice things about a lot of magician decks is they give these things called gaff cards, which will tend to be special cards that you can use for tricks, but they're usually double faced, or they're stuff you can hide. So from one angle you'd be looking, it would be the ace, and then obviously there's an ace and a 4. So it's kind of, there's a nice kind of level of details to some of these decks, especially for people that are practicing magicians. I won't go on forever because I couldn't go on forever, but there are 3 main people that I kind of tend to try and aim to get, or 4 actually, I guess you could say. Chris Ramsey. These are my personal favourite. I had to put them in an acrylic case because they're too goddamn beautiful. These are David Blaine's gator backs. So they're all gator themed, they're all foil, they're all gold. They are just stunning, absolutely stunning in so many ways. There is a company called Fontaine, which do a lot of kind of themed decks. And I ended up getting a
Nice.
Halloween one. And all of the cards in this are pretty much, as you would imagine, they are kind of themed around Halloween. So they're going to have like pictures from the film, which is, you know, again, it's really, really nice. I like that. It's kind of an interesting one. They've just done a Pink Panther one. Okay. Which is kind of cool. So a lot of places do kind of use different styles and different themes. So there's another guy called Drummond Money Coots, who is called basically DMC. He does a really nice set of cards called the Elites. Okay.
Okay.
Something that's really cool with these, they come with basically it's an actual passport in a way, and in the passport it has like really nice kind of ways of using the deck in different ways to kind of trick people. So I think I might have shown you this before, Stephen. I think it's kind of difficult. I don't want to give it away too much because it is kind of a weird design. But within these backs, if you will, is all the information that you need to know what card is what. So there is a cheat sheet included. I'm going to quickly flash that. It's gone. And basically within that, within these kind of optical lines, I think they call it the elliptical system or something like that. Basically, it looks like just a maze, but in actual fact, it's kind of giving you all your information. I think that's not going to show up very well on camera because obviously it's backwards. But again, really, really cool, really interesting, because I have seen marked decks before, and they take quite a lot of level to kind of learn the intricacies of them. So David Blaine's do some really weird ones where you've got to kind of like look at the lines, and if they're going a certain way, it's one thing, and then count the pips, and it's sort of like it gets a bit too confusing. Apparently, people can see it from miles away, and they can do it really well.
Okay.
These ones, however. These ones, you can see them from literally miles away, and once you know the pattern, you just go, yeah, that's the 4 of clubs, and it's like that kind of thing. It's very smooth. It's very cool. Once you know it though, and you see him using them, you can see the card, and that's the only thing. It's once you know it, and it takes away some of the mysticism of how he's guessing the card correctly. But it's still fun. Okay, now. The last company I will talk about, and these ones are absolutely destroying me, bank account wise. These are a company called the King's Wild Project. So they do a set of. In America, you can get like a kind of monthly subscription where every month they send you out a set of cards, and they're usually themed around something else. I've currently got a couple of the newer ones coming soon. There's a Sherlock Holmes deck. I'll show you these in a second as to why I like them. And there is a Beowulf deck as well. So I managed to get hold of the two main ones that I really like the look of. Was the Robin Hood deck.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually themed like a book.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. And the King Arthurian deck. So the thing that makes these kind of cards stick out a little bit is they've got very cool kind of ways of doing things. The cards aren't really what I would say is playing cards. They are more like kind of showing off cards in a way. So I don't know if they show up very well, but they are really thick. They are foiled, quite plasticky, and the cards are absolutely beautiful, sort of tapestry type things. So a lot of the design on these ones will be very much kind of like old-fashioned. So for instance, with a lot of them you get these kind of double cards, which when you put them together create this kind of like tapestry.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's very nice. It's so nice. The Sherlock Holmes ones are very similar. They've got like all the same kind of characters like Moriarty and all that kind of stuff. They're really, really nice. I'll just quickly show you the Robin Hoods. But yeah, they're a company that just seem to do like really nice looking ones, and for them especially, I really appreciate the artwork. There's a level of kind of craft that goes into it, and again, the Robin Hood one, it opens like a kind of sort of book in a way, and I don't know if you can kind of see it very well there, but it's like all this lovely pattern inside. They're harder to get hold of because where they are coming from America, you don't really get so many of these, so you can find people pay a lot of money for them, but luckily I seem to be able to get them when or not they're in. Where's my thingy? So again, it's very much the same kind of thing. Beautiful kind of backs to them, shiny kind of almost like a peacock, and then again you've got this kind of like beautiful kind of tapestry when you put these two together. Really nice cards, really sort of they're a little bit thick, I would say. I've never actually used these in any kind of game, if you will, because they're so thick, and once they kind of start getting a bit bendy, they're not so nice. But that's what you're kind of looking at, the kind of really old-fashioned kind of British-looking artwork. And you know what I'm like with art on board games. I very much appreciate like a nice piece of kind of beautiful-looking art, if you will. But yeah, they are probably the I would say these are definitely the kind of cards that you would sort of try and get and just never really use because they're so they're so attractive. Do you know what I mean? You look at them, you just go, oh, that's incredible. I've got just card decks where I'll literally just play around them and fumble with them. There's a really nice thing called cardistry, and I recommend people look at that because it's just a beautiful way of doing things. It's kind of a way of kind of just doing movements with cards which don't really look possible. So it's all kind of really nice stuff, like kind of just flipping them in one hand and flipping them over kind of thing. And it's all that kind of, I mean, I can only do basic stuff, don't get me wrong, I'm never going to be able to do good stuff, but it's nice to see some of the stuff people can do when they're kind of one-handed stuff, where they're kind of like flipping it over and kind of moving it all around and all this kind of stuff. And
I mean, that looks quite smooth there, to be honest.
I've been practicing those things for like too long, so it's basically you just kind of cut them with, it's moving muscles you never thought you had. So it's cutting them, and then it's like moving your finger around them into your hand and then pulling them back, and it's stuff like that. And when you add it all together, people do it so fast and so incredibly smooth. You're just like, how are you doing this? And even some of the so again, Chris Ramsey was doing some stuff where he can do cardistry and he'd look at other people's stuff. So a lot of the things he does at the moment is he does puzzles and he'll review other magic and he'll review cardistry, and some of the stuff he's just looking at it going, how are you, it's almost like people have magnetic hands because they're flipping these things around, and they'll be doing stuff like this, and then suddenly the deck will just spread out into like 4 different fingers, spin around the fingers individually, and then land back in the hands, and you're like, huh? But yeah, so I would say I'm trying to cut off a little bit, wean myself off, because I've got I would say I've got a nice collection now of stuff that I like. There's a couple more things coming out that I want to get. Like I said, I've got the Sherlock Holmes one. After having the Robin Hood ones and the Arthurian ones, they're so nice, and they're just nice to kind of look at every now and then. And I've got a couple more of the Daniel Madison stuff on the way. The only thing I will say of him is he's moved to his own company now, basically, and with that there's the challenges of having your own business. And I ordered this one last August, and it turned up last week.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's not a Kickstarter, it's nothing like that, it's just the delays have been real. And I mean, obviously, naturally, pretty much 90% of that is down to obviously the pandemic. It's not, you know, it's not him just being lazy or anything like that, but he's been busting his ass off to get these things out. But it's a case of, yeah, everything has been affected by it. It's crazy, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing when all of this is over and we're all back in a room together, I might be making you my card shuffler somehow.
Yeah,
I think.
Probably not a good idea. There's a few things I've learned that aren't, let's say, kosher.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things, sorry, I will go off of this thing. One of the things that I really like about this Daniel Madison character is essentially he has entire books on how to cheat at poker.
Yeah.
And stuff I've never seen before. I will show you quickly. There's different ways of doing stuff. Like he basically could take an entire deck, shuffle it again, and it would go back to the exact same way it was before he'd even touched it. So he's always knowing, in control of what cards are what, and there's no way you have any chance to win in this, right?
That takes an incredible amount of control to shuffle things like that.
Yes and no. That one of those shuffles is like a mathematical thing. So once you know the order of the deck, apparently there's a certain amount of ways to shuffle it. It's something called a Pharaoh Shuffle. So the normal one is obviously when you cut the deck and then you split it and then you do the thingy and the Riffle Shuffle.
Riffle Shuffle, yeah. Which destroys decks of cards as well.
Which does destroy decks of cards.
Yeah.
But there's another one called a Pharaoh Shuffle, which is basically you kind of make them merge into each other and then split them into it. You can do this so many times that basically they go back to their original format. It's knowing the amount, because there's a way of doing it one way and a way of doing it another way, which lessens and increases the amount. It's very interesting. There's some stuff you just don't know about. But one of the things I really like is there's a palming technique, which is obviously normal palming is just kind of putting it in your palm and hiding it away. But there's one he does where basically he can, from the top, bottom, or middle, he can show you a deck of cards, and then in doing so, steal the bottom card, shift it into his palm, and basically it's kind of like this, and then while he's doing it, you can't even see, because he's doing it at a certain angle, you can't actually see this hand almost. So he's doing it in such a quick way that what he's doing is kind of like showing you all these cards, but you don't see this stuff at the bottom of his hand. He's got stuff where he's like moving his sleeves up, but what he's actually done is stolen half the deck. It's so incredible. All I would say is check out Daniel Madison on YouTube. Just look at some of his. There's one that's really cool. It's called the Tenkai Steel, Palm Steel, and it's basically just showing you how he steals cards. There's stuff he does with lapping. He can basically show you 4 cards, and you know them to be 4 cards, and then as he deals them, they're changing. But what's actually happening is he's throwing them. He's got 8 cards. He's throwing one of them into his lap. But it's so quick, it's so smooth. You just go, yep, he's dealing the ace. Wait, that's gone to a king. What's going on? And it's like, it blows your mind, because when you see it first, you kind of go, it's almost like, how does that work? But he's very much like a teacher of these things, so he'll show people how to do them, and I think that's kind of interesting. I think it's nice. But yeah, no, don't get me the shuffle cards, basically.
Okay, fair enough. In which case, I'm now going to put the pressure on and ask you what your second game you're going to take onto the island would be.
See, I know you guys always think they're a bit of a... I would take something like Exploding Kittens. To be fair, many of those games, it's just a nice, quick, easy game. It's small enough to kind of control. Again, it seems to get quite a lot of kind of fun out of people, I guess. It's a nice one to kind of play. It's a smaller game as well, so you don't need too many people to play. You can always play it with 2 people, after you've eaten the other 2. Yeah, I'm an advocate here for cannibalism, I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah. Right. On the island, I'm sure. I mentioned plentiful fruit earlier, but meat may be a bit more of a problem.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I like my fruit, but apparently if you eat too much of it, it can do you in a wrong. So I don't know if it's the best thing to do. I know if you just solely drink and eat coconut, you're gonna get bad stomach. So I'm just thinking about my options here.
I'm kind of thinking though, you're very quickly going to be down to just imaginary players before long.
Yeah, again though, I'm quite happy on my own person, so I could probably make up 6 or 7 people. I mean, I'm not going to lie, there's definitely going to be a seaweed-covered rock that I'm going to call Steve.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to make this like seaweed beard on a coconut and just be like, Steve!
It's nice. It's nice to know I'm that easy to replace.
I'm not saying I'm going to replace you, I'm just saying it's a lovely substitute to have. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't talk back very much. You smell a bit rotten at this point, but it's all good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think I would take something like that. Maybe the not safe for work edition, just because it's kind of like it's just a bit more funny, and it kind of then again I'm always using this as a social experiment, because I can then see if people find that kind of stuff funny. If they don't, it's sort of like, well, that's a bit weird. Like the boob wizard or whatever it is, looking into the future and looking into a goat's bum or something like that. It's stuff like that. If people don't laugh at that, you initially have to worry about their sense of humour. And if it's, even if it's just like, that's funny, it's still a better reaction than I don't get it.
So it's interesting, because obviously your first choice of game was very much something that would form lines of communication with strangers and stuff like that, and get to know them a little bit better by how they think about how animals work and stuff like that.
Yeah,
however, your second one is a bit. I sense that this is more one that kind of just appeals to your sense of humour a bit. It's got that kind of wacky kind of cartoon style to it. It's a bit Looney Tunes, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think I very much love that kind of. There's probably not many, if any, of the like kind of Exploding Kittens company's games that I don't like. I know we've all had kind of mixed reviews of stuff like that, but I always find them quite interesting or funny. I mean, they don't seem to be stopping either. I think they brought a new one out with. Do you remember the Taco Cat in one of the? I think it's just the standard cards.
Yeah, I seem to remember it, yeah.
And it says something like, I'm a palindrome or something like that. They've basically made an entire game about palindrome. And I think that's incredible. Like, I think that they've taken one card out of a normal game that they made like ages ago, and have now turned it into basically its own game. You know, there's another one like Poetry for Neanderthals, where you have to explain things in basic words. You can't use like any sentences. You have to be like, thing that floats, and they'd be like, boat? Yes. Like that. And if they get it wrong, you hit them over the head with an inflatable club. So again, there's loads of, you know, the burrito duel, or throw burrito even. It's like a dodgeball game with like foam burritos. You know, those kind of things. Say what you want. I know they don't rank very highly on Board Game Geek, but they are great fun for just. I would say Board Game Geek is like, let's say Board Game Geek was elite people. So like your people that constantly play board games, and there's an upper echelon, and they're playing your.
It's there for hobbyists, is what I would say.
Yeah. Whereas I would say your Exploding Kittens, your Throw Burrito, stuff like that, that's very much for families and lame people, I guess. So people that aren't necessarily interested. No, that's a beautiful term. People that aren't into, say, your hobby and stuff. They're just in for just family fun, or just a laugh on a Saturday night. It's those kind of things, you know. And I like to be on both ends of the spectrum.
Okay. So yeah, I would probably describe. What was the name of the company that does Exploding Kittens and stuff? I've really forgotten.
They have the oatmeal, but that's not their name. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, but I think I would probably describe them as the Saturday morning cartoon of board games, probably.
Well, there's definitely a theme here.
Okay. Before we move on to your final game choice, I want to talk a little bit about Onyx Doge on Instagram. Onyx, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I had a bit of a malfunction. Onyx Doge on Instagram. So yeah, if you want to check this out, it's Onyx_Doge, Doge, and then yeah, you should find what is a very big boy.
Yeah, so I had this thought in my mind of I didn't want to create like a internet sensation or anything like that. Basically, whenever I take Onyx out, or anyone takes Onyx out for that matter, people take photos of him, and I was curious if I could sort of try and find a way of maybe getting him out there enough that people might go, I know that dog. I've taken a photo of that dog. And then it would kind of create this, because there's a lot of people that say like overseas students and stuff like that will take photos of him, and I'm always curious whether or not they keep these photos or just get rid of them. I keep loads of dog photos for other dogs, anything, because I'm just like, oh, that's hilarious, and it clogs up a lot of my memory. But I'm curious if other people do the same, and then show other people, and then it becomes like a thing. Like, well, I saw this dog in Britain, and this dog is ridiculous. It's massive. It woos. It practically talks to you. And it has a weird penchant for only women. So I wondered if it, like, from doing this, I could kind of send him out there a little bit, and then maybe people will go, I have a photo of this dog, and then tag him in it, and it would become like a kind of thing. However, one of these things that I found that is very difficult with keeping up a social media presence, as I'm pretty sure you're aware, Steve, is time. Having time to put Onyx in stupid situations is increasingly difficult. He, as he's got older, he's got less lenient, shall we say, of being posed. Okay. He doesn't like to be dressed up as much as he used to, even though he has no choice. He's not really up for that lifestyle, I don't think, anymore, like being a fashion icon. Yeah. So it kind of dropped off a little bit from the face of the earth, and I've kind of taken over actually creating mine a bit more now, putting a few more things. Like, I've actually posted stuff, which is rare for me. However, I have got a massive back catalogue of photos that I do plan on bombarding on there at some point. But again, not being socially network savvy, I don't know what the etiquette is. You bombard all of them at once. You space them out by doing one a day. Clearly, we're not snowing at the moment, so I can't put them in the middle of March. Sure. You know, so it's like, well, it's obviously snowing in March. Where are you living? Under a rock? You know, so it's those kind of things. I mean, I have some really choice photos that I've been saving up. Just stupid little things, like I'll put glasses on him. I'll just put like just a pair of specs on him, and he'll look instantly smarter. It's
think
those little things.
I think one of the things I think we should mention at this point what breed of dog he is, or just the fact that he's a dog. I kind of feel like we've gone headlong into this without really explaining. You can guess from that, but yeah, it's a big dog basically.
It's a big dog. We're gonna leave him as
like
a big
Roman
dog.
Reigns.
He's Roman Reigns. Dog fall. He doesn't need no description. Yeah, I mean, he looks great in a hat, and that's the problem. I don't think he realises how good he looks in a hat, and how he's denying us humans that level of, like, I don't dress him up like some people do, and I think sometimes that can be a bit distasteful, like putting dogs in kind of like human outfits, I guess, but he looks fantastic in a hat, especially when it's a military hat, and that's the problem. I think I can't post too much because I feel like I'm sending the wrong image that he is potentially not on the Allies' side, shall we say. He just happens to look really good in that kind of wear. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's channeling some inner demons. I don't know. But like I say, it's just silly little things. Like, he looks good in a beanie. Do you know what I mean? He looks good in stuff. I don't know if you've tried with yours, just putting on random hats. They look good in hats. Dogs look good in hats.
Honestly, man, with my dog, she will kick her way out of being picked up. She will not let it happen. So being able to dress her up in stuff and stuff like that is an impossibility. But I was going to say one thing I did. Well, we hear her most of the time on here, but anyway. One thing that I did want to bring up whilst we were talking about this, though, just to go back to something that you mentioned really early whilst you were talking about Onyx, was I remember there was one time we took him to a cheese festival.
Oh,
and,
God, what a joy.
You can talk about how everyone stopped to see the dog. It really got out of control when we sat down to try and have something to eat, and we were watching the band play and stuff. And the band, after they stopped playing, come down and find the dog, basically. So, we just wanted to come over and say hello.
This is a thing that I think you don't appreciate sometimes. People always say that, like, having a dog will make you very social, and I think it does if you're a social person. I think the thing that makes me laugh is we'll try and go somewhere, like for instance me and you at the cheese festival, and all we're trying to do is get from point A to point B, right? And usually that means not even 10 meters, just a small amount of space, because we're trying to get from one cheese stand to another cheese stand. However, that will take you upwards of 30 minutes. Now, the reason is because people stop to talk to him, he stops to talk to people, and it becomes very much like a kind of event. You'll be like, the standard goes, how old is he? How much does he weigh? What kind of breed is he? What's his name? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Will he get any bigger? What kind of... And you just sort of like, does he eat a lot? It's the same kind of select mate of questions. And I don't mind asking them, but it gets to the point where after several hours of one day, you've said the same things over and over again. You're like, Jesus, this dog is massive, but come on, guys. And then that happens. Like you say, some people are playing they're focusing on playing a band, but obviously, whilst looking out into the audience, spot this beautiful dog and go, could be friends with that. And I've got nothing against that. I love that concept, because it's the same thing I do. If I see a dog that I want to look at, I'm gonna go look at that dog. You know. Definitely.
I think it's exactly the same. But
God, man, I genuinely forgot about the cheese festival. That seems like so long ago.
That's the thing, it feels like it was like 5 years ago or something, but I think it was only a couple of years back or something like that. Like, time is just gone right now. The whole concept of time is just completely screwed up. But anyway, if you would like to check out Onyx, go onto Instagram and just look up Onyx_Doge.
I promise I will try and update it a bit more with less aggressive pictures. However, there is a really good one of him wearing a cop's hat.
Okay, there you go. That is surely motivation enough to go and have a look at this. Okay.
It got so ridiculous that whilst wearing that helmet, someone came up and went, "Oh my God, I didn't realise police dogs wear helmets." And I was like,
"Oh dear."
What?
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean.
Anyway, I think it's about time to move on to your third and final choice. What is the last game that you are taking to Board Game Island?
I think it's controversial. It would be. It would either be Marvel Champions or Arkham Horror.
To be honest, man, this is quite a good choice if you're planning on eating the other people that are on the island with you.
Yes, I think.
Save your favourite.
Possibly.
Save your favourite person.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I mean, realistically, you could play that on your own. So I don't even have to worry about not eating all my supply. I think it's more the fact that those kind of games are very much they're very accessible in a weird way. So they have got quite a little bit. I would say they are more rulesy than other stuff, but they are very accessible.
I think
once
it's
you
the
start
most.
learning.
I think it's the most complex game out of all the ones you've chosen by quite a margin.
Oh, 100%.
I think.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing is as well, like, I mean, like I say, where they're story based or they're kind of fun based or narrative based, if you will, they bring out a lot of people, and I mean, everyone loves superheroes, and a lot of people like horror stuff. So realistically, if I could fit one of them, I would probably go with. Story-wise, I would go with Arkham Horror probably, because it's a little bit different, isn't it? It's fun. I think I would probably take the one where the one I've just been playing, which is the one where they're stuck in the jungle, because I think that'd be really apt. Do you know what
Forgotten
I mean?
Age, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like people would start wondering maybe we are being watched by snakes. So it'd be fun. I think narrative that escaped it was unmatched.
Okay.
The only reason I would say I wouldn't bring that is purely based on the fact that I'd have to bring a lot of it. And I imagine there's not a lot of space in my backpack. When I could have put food and water in there, I put in 6 different versions of a board game. And people would be like, I thought you were bringing the food. And I would be like, well, I thought you... Shut up! You know,
I was going to say...
Be like,
The one thing that I'll do to throw a spanner in your works here, though, with your eventual choice, is both Arkham Horror and Marvel Champions are very expandable as well.
yeah, I mean, obviously I'm only bringing the base set, so we've done 2 missions and we're done. I think I'd finally have the time to learn to build some decks, so that'd be nice.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? You at least get 4 characters to be able to explore and to find out, I suppose, in this set, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no 2 games would be the same, just because of the random nature of the deck, the story way it works. I mean, I don't think I could. I probably would be able to play all the scenarios and all the versions within, say, a month or 2 if it was straight only. That was the only game I had. I'd probably be coming across, oh, I went insane. Oh, I died. Oh, I managed to make it to the first act or whatever. I think eventually you would probably get tired of it, but by that time I'm assuming I've eaten people. And wow, I just want to put it forward, I'm not actually going to eat people.
And do you know what? I'm actually going to give you a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here as well, because one thing I will say is I have stuffed a hell of a lot of the expansions into a single box as well. So I feel as if you could, unlike Unmatched, where you would have to take a number of different boxes in order to get the full experience of exactly what Unmatched brings. With Arkham Horror, you can easily just fit tons and tons of cards into the box in terms of expansions and do it that way.
Have you bought any of the I don't know what they're called. Like, it's the.
Are you talking about the storage boxes, like the long?
Yeah, like the return to things. I guess.
Yes, they're the return to boxes.
You can keep a lot of it in there, couldn't you?
So the thing is, I would say, having I've got the one for Night of the Zealot, the original box that you got. I've also got the one for Dunwich Horror, and I've got the one for Path to Carcosa as well. So I've got the Return to, and then I've got the full expansions in each of them. And there's still a bulk load of space, even once you've got all the expansions and thrown them in there. So, you can fit a fair few into them. You could
probably get away with.
You can take an entire story run easy with all the character cards as well.
I suppose is it more room for any of the not the upgrades, the other stuff like the extra inspectors or. Yeah, I suppose you could probably fit as much as possible. Which again, yeah, I guess if that's the situation, I would have an entire. I suppose I still need the starter deck, wouldn't I? Starter thing for the.
Yeah, you have to have the starter set, but I would say even without that, in the actual box itself, you'd be surprised at how many cards you can fit in there. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I guess.
With all the tokens as well.
Let's go under the assumption that I bought one of those really nice like aftermarket divider type things that people build for decks, boxes that you can buy, whatever, and they put pretty much enough space in there you could fit everything in. So let's say I've done that and I've got an entire campaign, start campaign, and maybe one of the other cycles, and a couple little bits. I reckon, yeah, that'd be fine. If I can maintain it in one standard box.
I will give you as. I suppose the overseer of this island, I guess.
Yes. The omnipotent.
I will give you the entirety of Night of the Zealot, the campaign that you originally get in there, and I will give you one other story arc. Which one would you choose? Do you think it would be Forgotten Age?
It's weird because that's the only one I've started playing, but I think the thing that really drew me to that one is the fact that it's kind of set in, well, I mean, most of the other ones seem like they're set in kind of like a town or woods or something like that, and I know this is similar, that it's kind of set within the jungle, but I think it was because it was temples, it was Mexico, like kind of the Lost City Aztec type thing. I really like the concept of this kind of Indiana Jones style thing going on, and I think that's what in my mind I imagined, you know, where like Indiana Jones starts off quite action adventure and has like a kind of almost horror supernatural element to it. I think I picked this one still because so far, having played it, I like the mechanics that was explained to you the other day, like having to I mean, this is very apt actually in a way for this island, but having to kind of think about what supplies you're taking, like water, food, rations. Every night that you don't have them, you start losing stuff. So it's a very interesting concept that rather than just having, it's almost like an RPG in a way. You play the game, but you also have after say the first act, if you will, or the first scenario, first one, you then have to kind of think about the night after, and then it gives you like these kind of like almost choose your own adventure style options. If you have this, skip to this. If you don't, this is what happens. And I like that's kind of added on to the narrative. Potentially your explorer might be dehydrated, which might not affect them, but it might affect them in a way later on. So yes, I'd go for a Forgotten Age, I think.
I feel like with all the jungle creatures as well, you're going to further sow paranoia between yourself and all of the rest. Wonderful choice. Great choice.
I mean, so far, I died in the first act. The agenda went up to second one. I got poisoned. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. I imagine that's going to happen on this island, you know. So might as well be prepared for it and play a fun game while getting poisoned.
Okay. So, in conclusion to that, the 3 games you have chosen to take with you to the island are Champions of the Wild, Exploding Kittens, and Arkham Horror? Or would you go for Marvel Champions? We've talked more about Arkham Horror here, but
I think I'd go for Arkham Horror. I love Marvel Champions, but it's not a story-based game, and I think I'd get slightly bored of just constantly fighting 3 or 4 enemies. So yeah.
In fairness, where you've basically taken one game that's going to kind of encourage discussion. You've got one game that is just a bit of silly fun, and then you've got your story-driven game. Really, that's what you've got there. So yeah, that's a really good selection of games you got there.
I think if I was to take a 4th or 5th, I think I would take a legacy game.
Yeah.
The only reason is because you'd finally have the time to actually play it, and those people ain't leaving.
Yeah, so, that's true. You're going to be playing that every night.
Yeah, I think I'd pick one that was. I think I saw a pirate-themed one not that long ago.
Endeavour, I think, maybe, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I think that'd be kind of good fun, especially again with the theme. But I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Right then. So thank you very much for taking us through your games, Darryl.
Can you let me off the island now?
Maybe. I mean, airports at the moment are kind of dodgy places. I really don't know if we can send anything over for you right now.
I don't really want to quarantine for 10 days in a hotel that I've got to pay for, so...
But on the plus side, we've had your Twitter handle on screen for the entire thing, so you have that.
People send me requests on this island, please! Cheese, send me cheese.
And finally, is there anything you'd like to tell us about that you're currently working on or doing? Where can we find you?
I do have social media stuff, but unfortunately I do not actively patrol it. I think Instagram's probably the one I'm sort of concentrating at the moment, so you can find me at... I believe it's the same as... Let me just find out, because I don't know. Isn't that amazing? You don't know your own thing. It's just my name. It's just my name.
Is it Darryl Buckby, or is it Buckby Darryl? Because Buckby Darryl is your Twitter. Darryl Buckby.
Yeah, so it's the reverse of that. Yeah, just, I don't know, send me a eggplant emoji, who cares? I don't, I might like it back, I don't know.
Apart from that, I think the other thing we can find you on is you're on Everybody Dice podcast every other week.
I am, what I would say is I was going to say the tallest, but I'm not, am I?
Is Ian taller than you, is he?
Ian is taller than me, but I think 2 foot.
It's close between the two of you.
Oh. Okay, I am the most brunette.
Yeah, I think you can have that one.
Yep. I am the... Oh, wait, no. I am the most smooth-faced person on...
Yeah, I think you can have that one. So there we go. Smooth Face from the Everybody Dice podcast. Thank you very much for joining us on our very first ever Board Game Island. If you've enjoyed this one, we're hoping to get more and more guests. We'll probably do Ian sometime soon on here. And then, by all means, if there's someone you guys would like to see us ask, then we'll try our best. Let us know in the comments down below. Apart from that, there should be a couple of things on screen right now somewhere that you can click on to find more of our stuff. And of course, just thank you very much for joining us. Give us a like and subscribe and stuff like that. Till next time. Bye.
Bye. I'm going to go and see if I can make a coconut Steve. Bye.